I took a DNA test, uncovered my wife's 12-year affair, and vanished. Cheating ruined everything. Reflecting on the moment my life took a sudden turn feels strange, even though, in hindsight, the clues were always there. I had always taken pride in being a dependable, trustworthy person, putting family above everything else. Like anyone, I had moments of self-doubt and insecurity, but I held firm to the belief that my loyalty would be returned. Maybe I was naive, or maybe I just wanted to believe that my family life was as solid as I'd imagined. And yet, even then, there were nights I'd lie awake questioning Linda's absences, her long work trips, and the small shifts in her behavior that I never dared confront head-on. The day I hired John Michaels, the private investigator, I felt a wave of guilt and dread. That decision ended the calm I tried to preserve, drawing me into a world of suspicion and doubt. I'd never pictured myself as a man who needed to spy on his own wife, but the fear had grown, creeping into my life until I could no longer ignore it. I had no idea how devastating the truth would be, or how it would tear apart the life I thought I'd built. As I sat in John's office that day, holding an envelope containing the truth, I knew nothing would ever be the same. "I hate to bring you bad news, Mr. Walker," John Michaels said, handing me an envelope filled with details about my wife's affair with her former boss, Grant Jacobs. Inside, along with a detailed written report, were several photos and a DVD. While I had already seen some of the photos, I hadn't yet gathered the courage to watch the footage. I avoided John's eyes, but I knew I had to face the full reality of what he'd uncovered. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. John looked at his report before answering. "From the transcripts, we estimate at least 10 years, he said. Maybe even 12. It seems to have started around the time your wife was up for the top job. This was about a year after our daughter, Sophie, was born. Still, I decided I would need to do a DNA test to confirm if the kids were really mine." Then another thought hit me. "What about sexually transmitted diseases?" I asked, feeling the weight of the question. The report revealed that Grant, along with Linda, had been involved with several other married women. How could she expose me to this all this time? I need to get tested right away. I glanced at the report again, laughing bitterly at John's conclusion that Linda appeared blissfully unaware of what the idiot was up to when he wasn't with her. "If it's any comfort, Mr. Walker," John added, "your wife's lover stated he never intended to break up your marriage. All he wanted was her body." He paused, watching me closely. "And they never did anything in your house. When I first hired John, I allowed him to set up cameras and microphones in our home. At least my own bed hadn't been touched by Grant's presence," I thought bitterly. "No, that's no comfort, Mr. Michaels," I said, meeting his gaze. "But thank you for telling me. I'd met Grant Jacobs a few times and never liked him. He was what some might call handsome, but had a smug, arrogant demeanor with a smirk that drove me crazy. More than once, I'd been tempted to wipe that look off his face. Now I understood the reason behind it. "There's more, Mr. Walker," John said, his tone darkening. "From what we've gathered, Jacobs' sister Natalie knew about the affair from the start. In fact, it looks like she may have even helped them." This realization saddened me, as I'd always thought Natalie was a kind person, the complete opposite of her brother. "Damn," I muttered, feeling the weight of betrayal. "Have you spoken to a lawyer yet?" asked John. "Not yet," I replied. "I wanted to know the truth first." "Well, I work closely with Lisa Hawkins. She's the best in the business, and she despises cheaters," he said. "If you'd like, I can send her this file and let her know you'll be in touch." "That would be great," I replied. "Thanks." I took the business card he handed me and slipped it into my pocket. John hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "Can I offer some advice?" "Of course," I nodded. "Let Lisa handle it," he suggested. "I know you're hurting, and you may feel like lashing out, but it's not worth risking jail time. You've got 2 kids to consider," he said, his voice softening. "I understand," I replied. "Thank you, John." I paid the bill and left his office, feeling as though my entire marriage had been a lie. I knew he was right, but the pain was overwhelming. I sat in my car and let myself cry, allowing the reality to sink in. Then, with a deep breath, I pulled out the card John had given me, called Lisa Hawkins' office, and scheduled an appointment for the next day. Lisa gave me a list of documents to bring for our meeting. On the way home, I stopped by a convenience store and grabbed a pack of cigarettes, a habit I'd kicked back in college. Then I went to a bar to drown my sorrows in beer. I wasn't much of a drinker, but that night it felt justified. "You okay, buddy?" the bartender asked as I took a drag from my cigarette. I looked up, surprised by his question. "Is it that obvious?" "Afraid so," he replied with a slight smile. "Let me guess, you just found out your wife's been unfaithful?" "Yeah, pretty much," I answered. "It's been going on for the last 12 years, if you can believe it." "I can believe it," he said, shaking his head. "I've seen and heard just about everything working here." "I bet," I muttered. He chuckled softly, then continued, "Mind if I share something my granddad used to say?" "Go ahead," I said, curious despite myself. "I once felt sorry for myself for not having shoes. Then I met a guy who didn't have feet," he said. "I know you're hurting. I've been there, but it gets better. And believe me, some guys have had it way worse. Your grandfather must have been wise." "He was." The bartender nodded. "Finish your beer and go home, son. Keep busy. You won't find any answers at the bottom of that glass." I nodded, grateful for his advice. I stayed a little longer, finishing my drink and reflecting on the years with Linda, on the small things that had made me suspicious but never enough to accuse her. For example, after our second child, Sophie, was born, I'd had a vasectomy, yet Linda stayed on birth control. When I asked her, she brushed it off, saying it was just to be extra cautious and to regulate her periods. It had seemed odd, but I trusted her. Now, knowing what I did, all those suspicions I dismissed fell into place. I remembered calling her during one of her supposed work trips. She was always in her room when I called, but sometimes I thought I heard a man's voice or noticed a pause, as if she were hesitant. And when she came home, I'd occasionally catch the scent of Grant's cologne on her clothes, a smell I recognized from the few times we'd met. I told myself it was nothing, but now I knew better. I got back in my car, feeling like I was on autopilot. The confrontation ahead would be painful, but at least now I had the truth. When I arrived home, her car was already in the garage. To be honest, I was a little surprised to find her there. I closed the garage door, went inside, took off my jacket, and headed toward my home office. Linda intercepted me on the way, quickly noticing the smell of cigarettes and beer. "You smoked?" she asked, frowning. And I smell beer. "Is everything okay, John?" "No," I replied. "Actually, today was the worst day of my life." She looked at me with concern. "What happened? Did someone die or something?" I could see she was genuinely worried, but part of me wondered if it was just an act. "I'm heading to my office for the evening," I told her. "I'm not much company tonight." "Is there anything I can do, honey?" she asked. "Yes," I thought, but I held back. Instead, I said, "I'm afraid there's nothing you can do." She paused, looking uncertain. "Oh, by the way, John, I'm going away for the weekend, starting Friday." "It's only Tuesday, and you're already telling me you're leaving for the weekend?" "Yes, but something's come up," she replied. "It's just business, you know." "Sure," I said sarcastically. "What about Sophie's birthday on Saturday?" "I know," she replied, "but this can't be avoided. Could you explain to her why I can't be there?" "No," I answered firmly. "I won't cover for you anymore. You missed Erin's birthday last year, and our anniversary. You can tell our daughter yourself why you're choosing to be with Grant rather than at her birthday." Linda didn't like that. She sighed heavily before responding, "John, please, you're being unreasonable." "No, Linda," I said. "You supposedly retired a few months ago, after the company was sold, yet you've been gone so much that I have to wonder what's really going on. Want to explain?" She looked defensive. "Are you accusing me of having an affair? What would you think if the situation were reversed?" I asked. Linda's posture softened, her defensive tone fading. "I understand," she said quietly. "But believe me, it's just business." "That's what you've always said," I replied, feeling defeated. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do. Please don't bother me tonight. You'll need to watch the kids." Without another word, I went into my home office, shut the door, and locked it. Moments later, I heard Linda trying the handle, then knocking softly. "John?" she asked from the other side. "Please, John, talk to me." "Leave it alone, Linda," I said through clenched teeth. "I'm busy." There was silence before her footsteps faded away. I took a deep breath and sat down, beginning to organize the evidence I'd gathered, everything Lisa said she'd need. I turned my attention to the document John had given me, picking up a report and reading it carefully. Each line felt like a punch to the gut, forcing me to confront that this was the woman I'd loved and supported for 12 years. I put on my headphones, loaded the DVD, and braced myself. As I watched, the love I once felt for Linda dissolved into a numb coldness. Hearing their conversations turned my stomach, yet I listened closely. "Still good for this weekend?" Grant asked, holding her. "Of course," Linda replied with a smile. "You know I can't go too long without you." "What about your daughter's birthday? Isn't it this weekend?" he asked. "Yes," she answered, almost dismissively. "But John will be there. He's better with the kids than I am, and if I had to choose, I'd rather be with you." Grant hesitated, a hint of concern on his face. "I'm worried he might get suspicious. Shouldn't you be careful?" Linda laughed, shaking her head. "Retired or not, Grant, I'm not giving you up. I love my family and John in my own way, but letting go of this part of my life with you." She looked at him intently. "Never." I removed the headphones, my heart pounding with anger and disbelief. I put the DVD back in its case and locked it away, just as Linda knocked on my office door. "John?" Her voice sounded tired, almost vulnerable. "What?" I snapped. "Could you come say goodnight to the kids?" "Fine, just for a minute," I replied, ignoring her. I went upstairs and tucked Sophie into bed, keeping my expression neutral. "Are you okay, Dad?" she asked, concern in her voice. "Yes, honey." I forced a smile. "I'm fine. Now go to sleep. I love you." "I love you too, Dad." She hugged me. As I left her room, Linda waited in the hallway. "I warmed up dinner for you," she said. "It's on the table." "I'm not hungry," I said, brushing past her to go outside. Sitting on the patio, I lit a cigarette and stared into the night. Linda joined me a few minutes later. She leaned in to kiss me, but I turned away, letting her kiss fall on my cheek. "What's wrong?" she asked, worry in her eyes. "I've never seen you like this." "We don't always get what we want, do we?" I replied coldly. "What does that mean?" she asked, hurt and confused. I shook my head, exhaling smoke. "Forget it, Linda. Please, John, talk to me. You can tell me anything." I looked at her through the haze. "It's too late for that." "Too late for what? I don't understand," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Come on, Linda," I said, my voice low but sharp. "You're a smart woman. You figure it out." She stepped back, hurt, her eyes filling with tears. "If you'd just talk to me." She started, desperation in her voice. "Leave it alone, Linda," I said firmly, anger breaking through. "I need time to think." After a pause, she replied quietly, "Okay, John." She turned and walked back inside, tears streaming down her face. I sat there smoking until past midnight before going in to sleep on the futon in my office. The next morning, as I made breakfast for the kids and got ready for the day, Linda lingered nearby, watching me with a mix of sadness and confusion. I ignored her, focusing solely on the kids. After they left for school, I went to work without looking back at Linda. At the office, I explained the situation to my boss. He listened sympathetically and patted my shoulder. "Do what you need to, John. If you need time off, just say the word." I thanked him, knowing I had a long day ahead. Later that afternoon, I met Lisa Hawkins, my divorce attorney, who greeted me warmly. "Good afternoon, Mr. Walker," she said as I entered her office, extending her hand. "Please, call me John." "Then call me Lisa," she replied with a sympathetic smile. "I've reviewed the report Mr. Michaels sent over. I'm sorry you're going through this. It never gets easier seeing things like this." "How are you holding up?" "Not well," I admitted. She nodded. "Understandable. Have you confronted her yet?" "Not exactly. I was short with her last night. Try to keep composed for now," Lisa advised. "If possible, let her continue as if nothing's changed. Soon enough, she'll have to face the consequences." "I'll do my best," I said, feeling a wave of determination. "Good," Lisa continued. "Now, what are you looking to get from this divorce?" "As much as I can," I said firmly. "Especially custody of the kids." Lisa looked thoughtful. "In most cases, custody usually goes to the mother. I've been the primary caregiver for years," I countered. "She even says in the videos that I'm better with the kids, and she's willing to miss our daughter's birthday to be with her lover. Doesn't that matter?" Lisa nodded. "It does. We can use that." She went over my financials, reviewing each document carefully. "Your wife received a significant payout from her company's sale, and her monthly dividends are close to your salary. That will work in our favor." "So, no alimony?" I asked, a glimmer of hope in my voice. Lisa nodded. "Or very little. If we secure primary custody for you, we could even push for her to pay child support." "And the house?" I pressed. "If you gain custody, you can stay in the house and will request that she covers half the mortgage," she explained. "But if the court awards her custody, you'd be responsible for half the mortgage and child support." She continued. "Another option would be to sell the house and split the proceeds." "And what about our pensions and accounts?" I inquired. "We can exclude retirement accounts from division. Each of you would keep your 401k. The rest would be divided evenly, which is standard practice." "What about Grant Jacobs?" I asked, leaning forward. "Can I sue him for alienation of affection?" "Not in this state," Lisa replied. "But we'll definitely bring him into the case during the divorce. We could consider a suit for intentional infliction of emotional distress, though it might not carry much weight here." "And his sister, Natalie? She knew everything, maybe even helped them." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. "It's a similar situation with her. We can pursue it if you want." "Yes, let's do that. When can you formalize everything?" "We'll be ready by Friday," she assured me. "Perfect. I'd prefer it served late Saturday night. She'll be with Grant that weekend." "Understood." A bit of shock and awe. "We can arrange that," Lisa agreed, adding, "though a weekend process server will cost a little extra." "That's fine," I said. "Do it." "Understood, John," she agreed. We ended the meeting with a handshake and she gave me the usual caution not to do anything rash before accepting my deposit check. I left her office feeling a sense of control over the situation. Arriving home, I was slightly surprised to see Linda's car in the garage. Since it was Wednesday, I expected her to be at work. I touched her car's hood. It was still warm, meaning she hadn't been home long. Walking inside, I immediately smelled something cooking. "Hi, honey," Linda greeted me as she stepped out of the kitchen. "You're home a little early. Is everything okay?" "Yes," I replied. "I hope you're in a better mood than yesterday," she said, eyeing me carefully. "A bit. I'm taking control of things." "That's good to hear. Are you ready for dinner? I made a roast, your favorite." "I'll have some," I answered, catching the aroma. "Smells great." "Did you go to work today?" she asked. "Yes, for a few hours," she responded. "I'm just getting things set for the weekend." "Did you talk to Sophie?" I pressed. "Yes, though she's not thrilled," Linda admitted. "But she's young, she'll get over it." "Where are the kids?" "In their rooms doing homework," she replied. "So, you're still going on this trip with Grant?" I asked, a hint of tension in my voice. "Yes, as I said, it's strictly business," she insisted firmly. "When do you plan to fully retire?" I followed up. "I already am retired," she reminded me. "They just need my expertise now and then. Not sure how much longer they'll need me." "Well, with all the hours you put in, you could be getting paid," I noted. "Why?" she asked. "I'll bring more in once I retire," I replied. I placed my briefcase in my office, then changed into casual clothes. I complimented her on the roast. She was always a good cook, something I knew I'd miss. After spending time with the kids, I went to my office and locked the door. Linda tried to open it, then knocked when she realized it was locked. I cracked the door open just enough to see her face. "John?" she asked. "Are you staying here tonight?" "I think so," I replied. "I need to clear my head, and I don't want to risk you getting sick before the trip, so I'll sleep here on the futon tonight." "Oh, all right," she said. "Get some rest, John. I love you." "Yeah, me too," I said, closing the door. I heard her walk away, then turned to my computer and started a search. After finding what I needed, I filled out a form and checked my email for confirmation. I noted the phone number and set a reminder to call the next day to confirm everything. Thursday went much like Wednesday, except Linda attempted to entice me to bed, wearing a revealing nightgown. I'd always admired her, but knowing what she was doing with Grant, I felt nothing toward her now. "Sorry, Linda, I have a terrible migraine," I said softly. "I'll take something and sleep here in the office." A tear rolled down her cheek as she turned away, but I felt no sympathy. She called around noon the next day to tell me she was leaving. "I hope you feel better, John," she said. "Maybe we can reconnect when I return on Monday. My parents will pick up the kids after school today and bring them back tomorrow afternoon for Sophie's birthday party." "Thanks for letting me know," I said. "I really do love you, John. I hope you believe that." "Sure," I replied. "Bon voyage. Goodbye, Linda." I hung up and dialed Lisa's number. "I'm preparing the paperwork now, John," she said. "Tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. they'll be served at Grant's house as requested. Natalie's paperwork will be filed on Monday." "Thanks, Lisa," I said, ended the call. I told my assistant I was leaving for the day, locked my office and headed home, with a lot to handle before the movers arrived that afternoon. I had gathered several boxes in the garage, specifically for this job. Just as I finished packing everything, the movers arrived with their truck. By 5 p.m., they'd loaded it all into the truck, while I took care of Linda's wedding dress. I placed the remains in a paper bag, folded it closed, and attached an envelope containing a brief note, my wedding ring, and our marriage certificate, torn into 4 pieces. I handed the bag to one of the movers and asked him to deliver it to Linda at Grant's house at 5:30 p.m. the next day. I also added 2 $50 bills as tips for both movers. "I'll take care of this personally, Mr. Walker," the young man assured me, accepting the package. "Thank you," I replied. I reheated the leftover roast and ate in the living room, while watching TV. That night, I slept peacefully in the master bedroom, until Linda's parents arrived with the kids. It was noon the next day. I'd been busy on my feet, setting up everything in the yard for Sophie's birthday party, which was set to start around 3 p.m. Linda had ordered a cake, which I picked up that morning and stored in the fridge. "You've been hard at work," Linda's mother Rhonda remarked as she came in. "I didn't have much choice," I replied, "just hoping everything goes smoothly." "I'm sure the kids will have a wonderful time," she said. "Did Sophie tell you Linda won't be here?" I asked. "Yes," Rhonda answered, shaking her head. "I can't believe she'd skip her daughter's birthday." She gave me a curious look before asking, "Is everything okay between you two?" I sent the kids upstairs to get ready, then turned to Rhonda and her husband, George. "No, things aren't okay," I admitted. "I hate to say it, but you'll find out soon enough. I'm divorcing Linda." "What?" George asked, shocked. "Why?" I found out earlier this week that she's been having an affair with her boss for the past 12 years, I explained. That's exactly what she's doing right now. Oh my goodness, Rhonda gasped. Are you certain about this? Yes, completely. I'd suspected something for a while. So after her supposed retirement last month, I hired an investigator. I have his full report, photos, and even videos if you want to see them, I said. No, that's all right, she replied. But are you sure there's no chance of forgiving her? Not after all this time, I said firmly. I'd like to see that report, George said. I just can't believe she'd make such a terrible choice. While you do that, I'll finish setting up for Sophie's party, Rhonda offered. I thanked Rhonda and led George to my home office, where I handed him a copy of the investigator's report. His eyes widened as he read through the details of his daughter's relationship with Grant. When he finished, he shook his head in disbelief. That foolish woman, he muttered, closing the report. I'm so sorry, John. She may be my daughter, but this is a lot for me to take in. Now you have an idea of what I'm feeling, I replied. What are you planning to do about that idiot, Grant? He asked. I filed a lawsuit against him and his sister for causing me emotional distress, I said. He let out a snort. This guy stole your wife, had a long affair with her, and you're just suing him? Do you think the lawsuit will accomplish anything? I know, George, I said. I'd love to take a tire iron to him, but that would just land me in jail. I have 2 kids to think about. I can't be there for them if I'm locked up. George nodded thoughtfully. You're probably right. Still, from that report, it seems Grant has a habit of going after married women. I wouldn't be surprised if Linda wasn't his first. Probably not, I agreed. Listen, John, George offered. Why don't you let me take care of that dirtbag? He's not worth you risking your future over. Don't worry, son, he added with a reassuring nod. No one's going to jail. Though George was tough, he was a big man, and I'd met some of his Kyo workers, strong, burly guys who looked out for each other. What are you planning to do? I asked. The less you know, the better, George said with a wink and a grin. All right, whatever you say, I replied. He smiled and patted my shoulder. Come on, John, let's go enjoy the party with the kids. When we went outside, Rhonda had finished setting up everything for the party. Sophie came downstairs, her face lighting up as she saw the decorations. Thank you, Dad, she said, wrapping her arms around my neck. It's amazing. I wish Mom were here to see it. Me too, I said. We'll take some pictures for her to look at later, all right? Okay, she nodded. I started grilling hamburgers and hot dogs for everyone. Around 4:30 p.m., the doorbell rang, signaling the beginning of the party. Over the next half hour, more than a dozen parents arrived with their kids, all friends of Sophie's from school, who excitedly joined the backyard festivities. One of the last to arrive was Natalie, with her husband Ralph and their daughter Denise. I welcomed them in and directed Denise to the backyard, where the party was in full swing. I offered Natalie and Ralph a drink, and they gladly accepted. I'm surprised to see you, Natalie. I thought you and the family had a big business trip this weekend, I said. That's all Grant and Linda's work, she replied. I'm just their assistant back at the office. Right, I said. John, is everything okay between you and Linda? Natalie asked. Why do you ask? You're not wearing your wedding ring, she pointed out. I glanced down at my finger, noticing the faint mark where the ring used to be. I gave it back to her. Maybe Grant will have better luck with it. What's that supposed to mean? Natalie asked. Oh, come on, Natalie, I said. Don't play dumb. I know your brother has been involved with Linda for 12 years. You all did a great job keeping me in the dark. John, Linda still loves you, she insisted. Yeah, she loved me so much that she lied and deceived me for over a decade. I've never felt so loved in my life, I said with bitter sarcasm. So, what are you going to do? Natalie asked. What do you think? I'm divorcing her. She and Grant are about to get what they deserve, I replied, glancing at my watch. Will they be served? Natalie asked. Yes, Linda will be served divorce papers, and I'm suing Grant. You'll get your papers on Monday. Why me? I didn't do anything, Natalie protested. Exactly, I replied. For over a decade, you knew what they were up to. In fact, my investigator suggested you might have even helped cover for them. You acted like my friend all these years, Natalie. How many times did you sit in my home, eating meals at my table, enjoying my hospitality, knowing what Linda was doing with your brother? Did you enjoy seeing me played for a fool? Thanks to you, my marriage and family are shattered, and I'll never trust anyone the same way again. My children have lost their mother because of this. I hope you're pleased with yourself, Natalie. I'm not happy at all, she whispered. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 12 years of betrayal, Natalie, I replied. For 12 years, you, Grant, and Linda chose to destroy my family. You didn't care about what it did to me or the kids. Now you finally succeeded. It's not like that, John, she protested. isn't it? What was it, just business between you three? At first, yes, she admitted honestly. It was all Grant's idea. She wanted a job, so she agreed, but things changed over time. Changed, did they? I asked. Was this after you sold your company and Linda retired? It was Linda's choice to continue, Natalie replied. I thought it would all end, but she decided to keep it going. Then she made a lousy choice, I said, but you still played your part. I truly am sorry, John, she said. None of us wanted to hurt you, but you did, I said, in the worst way possible. I think it's time for you and your family to leave my house, Natalie. She nodded quietly. I understand, John, she said before turning to go. Oh, and Natalie, I called out. She turned back to face me. Don't come back. Wiping away tears, she walked off, together with Denise and Ralph. Meanwhile, Linda and Grant were lying together in his bed when her phone chimed. Thinking it was John sending photos from Sophie's party, she reached over and read the text from Natalie. He knows everything. Oh, damn, she muttered. What's wrong? Grant asked. It's Natalie. John knows everything, Linda replied. I'd better clean up and get home, she said. Are you sure that's wise? Grant asked. Yes, Linda said, getting up and putting on her robe. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Who could that be? Grant wondered, throwing on his pants and robe as he headed downstairs with Linda close behind. When he opened the door, he was met by a man in a light jacket. Can I help you? Grant asked. Are you Grant Jacobs? The man inquired. Yes, Grant replied. And is Linda Walker here too? That's me, Linda said, stepping out from behind Grant. I need to show you both some documents, the man said. What for? Grant asked, reaching for his wallet. Without a word, the man verified Grant's ID and handed him an envelope. You've been served, he said, before turning to Linda. Miss Walker, may I see your ID? Of course, Linda replied, taking out her wallet. The man checked her license and handed her an envelope. You've been served, he said. Also, there's a restraining order attached. Both of you are required to stay at least 500 feet away from John Walker, his residence, his workplace, and his children's school. Violating this order could lead to arrest. Best of luck. As he turned and walked away, Linda and Grant exchanged stunned glances. A moment later, another man approached them, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. Is one of you Linda Walker? He asked. Yes, that's me, Linda replied. He handed her a paper bag with an envelope attached, and Linda looked at him puzzled. I was asked to deliver this to you, ma'am. There are also a few more boxes in the truck. Where would you like them? Grant and Linda exchanged a glance before Grant replied, Just put them in the front room for now. Will do, the man replied, heading back to the truck while the couple watched. Men carried several boxes and stacked them in the front room, as directed by Grant. Meanwhile, Linda opened an envelope containing her husband's wedding ring, a torn marriage certificate, and a typewritten note. She began to cry as she read it. The note read, Linda, throughout our marriage, I loved and supported you. Imagine my shock when I discovered your 12-year affair with Grant Jacobs. You paid back my love with lies and betrayal. You claimed it was just business, but now I see the truth. I hope it was worth it. I suggest you contact a lawyer as soon as possible. Our finances are already divided, and the locks have been changed. Since I've been the children's primary caregiver during your affair, I'm seeking full custody, but won't deny you visitation. Have your lawyer contact mine to finalize arrangements. I've sent your belongings to Grant's address. If there's anything else you want, coordinate through your lawyer. I don't want to see or hear from you again. For the sake of the kids, don't contest the divorce terms, but know that I'm prepared to fight if you do. I have photos, videos, and reports from a private investigator. I haven't told the children why we're divorcing yet, but I will when the time is right. Your parents have seen the report, though not the photos, and this sham of a marriage. Linda, you are dead to me. Goodbye. The note was signed, John. With tears in her eyes, Linda opened a paper bag and found ashes, the remnants of her wedding dress. She collapsed, sobbing, as Grant held her and read the letter. That fool, he muttered. I'll teach him a lesson. No, Grant, please don't. I don't want you in jail. This is my fault, she whispered. He's suing me for emotional distress. $5 million, Grant replied. I'll call my lawyer and see what can be done. Do you think he'll go after Natalie too? Linda asked. Let's find out, Grant said, picking up the phone. If so, we need a plan to manage this. After the birthday party, I thanked the guests, then faced the mess left behind. Sophie approached, teary-eyed. What's wrong, sweetheart? I asked, hugging her. I wish Mom were here. I miss her, she replied. I miss her too, but she had other things to do, I said, feeling the weight of her sadness. Are you divorcing her? Sophie asked, tears in her eyes. We'll talk later, okay? It's because of Grant, isn't it? Aaron chimed in. Why do you ask that? I overheard her talking to him on the phone, Aaron said. We'll discuss it tomorrow, I said. Today is Sophie's birthday. Can you help me clean up?" "Sure, Dad," Aaron replied. I hugged Sophie and wiped a tear from her cheek. "Everything will be okay," I told her. Rhonda and George stayed to help clean up before leaving. Rhonda asked, "Will you be all right, John?" "Yes, thank you for everything," I replied. After they left, I locked up, went to bed, and fell asleep almost immediately. The next day, I made breakfast, mowed the lawn, and helped Aaron trim the bushes. By lunchtime, Sophie was in the kitchen making sandwiches for us. After dinner, we cleared the table, and Sophie looked at me seriously. "Okay, Dad, tell us what's going on," she said. I knew this moment would come, so I gathered the kids in the living room and told them, "I'm divorcing your mother." They stayed calm, to my surprise. "She cheated on you with that guy Grant, didn't she?" Aaron asked. "Yes," I said quietly, nodding. "I thought so," he said. "I overheard her talking to him, like she talks to you, Dad." I nodded, regretting that I hadn't noticed sooner. Until recently, I trusted her completely. "How long has this been going on?" Sophie asked. 12 years, I replied. Sophie sighed. "So it started not long after I was born," she said. "Yes," I confirmed. "Damn her," Sophie muttered, then quickly apologized. I understood her anger and let it go. "Can I stay with you?" she asked. "Of course," I said. "Me too, Dad," Aaron added. "You were always there for us." Their words meant everything to me. We hugged, and I felt grateful they wanted to stay. After that emotional moment, we spent a quiet day together, though there was a sadness in the air. The following days went smoothly. George and Rhonda agreed to pick up the kids after school and stay with them until I got home, and Rhonda even cooked dinner for us, which was a big help. On Tuesday, my lawyer Lisa called. "Linda wants to visit the kids," she said. I wasn't comfortable with her coming to the house and worried she might take them without permission. "What about the restraining order?" I asked. "We could suspend it temporarily from Friday evening to Sunday morning. It's important not to seem unreasonable," she advised. I suggested to her lawyer to see them at her parents' place on Saturday, with the kids staying over Friday and me picking them up on Sunday. With no presence of Grant or Natalie, Lisa added, "The kids might not be thrilled seeing her right now." Her lawyer also requests the investigator report, which Lisa agreed to send by Thursday. I also learned Linda had hired Beth Sawyer, who interestingly dislikes working with cheaters. The next day, Lisa called back. Linda's lawyer agreed to our terms, with the restraining order suspended from midnight Saturday until noon on Sunday, applying only to Linda. Linda would meet the kids at her parents' and could stay overnight if they were comfortable. Reluctantly, the kids agreed. George and Rhonda arranged to take them Friday and bring them back Sunday. On Friday morning, I made sure the kids had everything they needed for the weekend. We hugged, and I reminded them to call if their mom tried anything unexpected. After dropping them off at school, I headed to work. That evening, George picked me up, and we went to the Flatstick Pub, a popular sports bar. Over burgers and beer, George filled me in. Linda arrived at 9 a.m. The kids weren't thrilled to see her, and didn't hide it. "She admitted to the affair," he added, surprising me. "She says she still loves you," he continued. "Do you think she'll try to reconcile?" "No chance, George," I replied. "After 12 years of lies, I'm done." George nodded. Just then, I felt a sudden blow to my head and collapsed. I looked up to see Grant standing over me, shouting, "I'll liquidate you." Thinking fast, I kicked him hard, causing him to stumble. I tackled him, delivering punch after punch, unaware that he was already unconscious. George and another man pulled me off him, and everything went black. I woke up in a hospital, bruised and bandaged, with the doctor saying I'd be fine after some rest. George was there, grinning. "You really did a number on him. He's in bad shape." "It was Grant, wasn't it?" I asked. "Yeah, it's Sunday morning, and the police want to talk to you," George said. The officers entered, and Sergeant Smith asked me to recount the events. "Grant attacked me," I explained. "I just defended myself." The sergeant nodded, confirming that witnesses and footage supported my story. "Would you like to press charges?" "Yes, absolutely. I also have a restraining order." The officers left, and soon after, Rhonda, Linda, and the kids entered the room. "What's she doing here?" I asked. "My restraining order doesn't start until noon," Linda replied, embarrassed. Sophie came up, teary-eyed. "Are you okay, Dad?" "I'll be fine," I reassured her. "I heard you knocked up Grant," Aaron said, smiling. "Not something to be proud of," I said, glancing at George. Linda softly asked if I'd be okay, but Sophie answered for me, "Yes, we'll take care of him." Aaron agreed, giving his mother a hard look. Linda looked at the kids, then back at me. "If you don't mind, I'd like to speak with your father alone for a few minutes," she said. The kids hesitated, then nodded and left the room with George and Rhonda. Once they left, Linda sat beside my hospital bed, looking down and fidgeting with her hands. "John," she began softly, "I can't express how much I regret all of this." "Well, as I told Natalie, sorry doesn't mean much now," I replied. "You lied and cheated on me for 12 years, and now an apology is supposed to make it better? Was I really such a bad husband? All I did was love and support you." "You were the best husband and father anyone could hope for," she said, looking pained. "But even that wasn't enough, was it?" "That's not how it was," she insisted. "Isn't it?" I asked. "Because from where I stand, it sure looks that way." "You don't understand," she said quietly. "Then help me understand," I challenged her. "At first it was just a way to get the job," she stammered. "Grant said sleeping with him was part of the job requirements. It was just business." "That's sexual maltreatment, Linda. That's illegal," I said, feeling my anger rise. "Why did you come to me? We could have fought it together. But no, I see it now. You wanted that job badly enough to do whatever it took, even if it meant destroying our family. It was a deal with the devil," she said, her voice trembling. "And now you're blaming the devil?" I scoffed. "Come on, the truth is, you wanted that job enough to betray me and our family." She looked down, ashamed. "I guess I got to a point where I thought I could have it both ways." "So you have feelings for him, don't you? That's why you kept it going. Did you plan to keep this up for life? Did you really think I'd never find out?" "Yes," she admitted, barely audible. "I developed feelings for him. I thought you loved me enough to accept it, to let me have this, and I tried my best not to let it affect you." "Are you serious?" I asked, stunned. "Every moment you spent with him was taken from us. Every lie, every excuse, those were all pieces of time and trust you stole from me. Do you remember opportunity cost? Well, you chose him over us, and that's what you lost." "But I still love you," she whispered. "I never stopped." "Maybe," I said, "but you stopped respecting me. You told him you'd carry on this affair for life, and if I found out and divorced you, you'd accuse me of misuse. Did you think I wouldn't learn that too?" She looked up, shocked. "You heard that?" "Yes," I said firmly. "And more, like when you told Grant you'd rather be with him than with your own daughter on her birthday. What kind of mother does that?" She flinched, visibly hurt. "I must be a terrible wife and mother," she whispered. "Those are your words, not mine," I said, shrugging. "But if the shoe fits, did you really take a DNA test?" she asked, her face going pale. "Yes," I replied. "Thankfully, both kids are mine." "Oh my God," she gasped. "Did you really think I'd go that far? After 12 years of lies and betrayal, can you blame me?" I asked. She sat in silence, visibly shaken, before finally asking, "What do you want me to do now?" "Sign the papers, Linda," I said. "Let's end this sham of a marriage, and get help for yourself and for the kids. I don't want this to be uglier than it already is." "You're right," she murmured. "I'll sign the papers. I'm so sorry, John, for everything I put you through. Maybe one day I'll be able to forgive you, Linda," I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. "Thank you for letting me see the kids this weekend," she added, quietly. "You're welcome," I said. "I know you don't believe me, but I do love you," she said, tears welling up. "I wish we could stay together." "I don't believe you, but thanks for saying it," I replied. "Maybe a part of me will always care for you, but that's not enough. I need trust, and after all this, I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again." She nodded, her face crumbling with emotion. "I understand," she whispered. "Goodbye, John." She leaned over and kissed me softly on the cheek. "Goodbye, Linda," I said, watching as she left the room, wiping away her tears. A few moments later, George, Rhonda, and the kids returned. "Is everything okay, son?" George asked. "Yes," I said, steadying my voice. "We talked. I think she's finally realizing the extent of what she's done." "Does this mean you and Mom are getting back together?" Sophie asked hopefully. I shook my head gently. "No, honey," I said. "But you both love each other," she protested. "For a marriage to be strong, Sophie, it takes more than love," I explained. "It takes trust, and right now I don't have that with your mom. Someday you'll understand." The doctor came in, performed a final checkup, and discharged me. George drove me home with the kids, who sat quietly beside me, each lost in their own thoughts. Later that evening, I received an urgent call from George and Rhonda. Apparently, Natalie had called to inform them that Linda had attempted self-destruction by overdosing on sleeping pills and booze. Natalie had found her just in time, while visiting Grant's house to pick up some of his things. Linda had left a note on her nightstand reading only, "I'm sorry." Linda barely survived the overdose and spent several days in the hospital. After a thorough evaluation, she was released into George and Rhonda's care and eventually moved in with them. She signed the divorce papers without contesting anything. Lisa informed me that in 90 days, I'd officially be a free man. Free, I thought. Yes, exactly that. Grant and Natalie's attorney quickly worked out a settlement, granting me half of what I initially requested. After legal fees, I ended up with about $3.5 million, from which I set aside $1 million each for Sophie and Aaron to ensure they could attend any college they chose. With the remainder, I began planning a Mediterranean cruise for us next summer. Grant was convicted of aggravated assault and attempted homicide, largely due to video evidence of his attack on me. He was sentenced to 10 years in state prison, with potential parole after 8.5 years. I saw Linda occasionally when I dropped the kids off at George and Rhonda's. Sometimes we would talk, but I could never shake the memory of her betrayal. She started seeing a psychologist to understand why she'd made the choices she had, but the therapy came too late for us. Over time, she managed to repair her relationship with the kids, which was all I could hope for. A few months later, I finalized the Mediterranean cruise plans. During the trip, I met a wonderful woman from British Columbia, Nikki, who was also going through a divorce. She was a little younger than Linda, with shoulder-length blonde hair and a bright, positive personality. We spent a lot of time together, sharing our stories, and ended up in a relationship that felt refreshing. Sophie would often tease me, "Daddy has a girlfriend." She'd hum with a grin, nudging me. When the cruise ended, Nikki and I exchanged contact information, staying in touch over email and Skype. We chatted a few times each week. Adjusting to life without Linda was tough, but gradually we found a new rhythm. My boss was understanding of my need for flexibility, and I looked forward to the day Aaron would be old enough to help out with driving Sophie to school and other responsibilities. One afternoon, George came by with sad news. "They're planning to admit Linda to a mental hospital," he said gravely. "Why?" I asked, taken aback. "Sophie sent her a photo of you three having dinner with that woman from the cruise, the one from Canada," he explained. "Linda didn't handle it well. She lost control. Rhonda and I found her in the bathroom. She'd cut her wrists." "Oh God," I murmured, feeling the weight of it. "I'm so sorry to hear that." A part of me felt sadness, but there was also a strange sense of validation. She now understood some of the pain she'd caused. George continued, "The doctors say with her history she needs consistent care. Rhonda and I are too old to provide that level of support, so they recommended institutionalization." "For how long?" I asked. "It's hard to say," he admitted. "Could be years, maybe longer. Let me know if there's anything I can do," I offered. "Thank you, son. I appreciate it," George replied, nodding before leaving. Meanwhile, my relationship with Nikki blossomed. We spoke often, and the more we talked, the closer we became. I found myself frequently thinking of her, imagining a future where we could spend more time together. When I told her about Linda's hospitalization, she was empathetic, especially knowing how it affected the kids, George and Rhonda. She invited me to visit her with the kids at her home, a 2-story log cabin on 50 acres in northern British Columbia, a place she described as peaceful and scenic. I'd never been north of the U.S. border, so the thought intrigued me. Who knows, I thought, maybe it could lead to something more, but that's a story for another time. As we settled back into our routines, I noticed positive changes. The kids were adapting to life without Linda at home, and I found a rhythm that worked for us. My boss continued to be flexible with my schedule, and I looked forward to the day Aaron could take on some responsibilities, like driving Sophie to school. Slowly, things were coming together. Then, one evening, George arrived unexpectedly at our home, his expression heavy. I invited him in, noting the tension in his face. "What's wrong, George?" I asked. He sighed deeply. "John, they've decided Linda needs an extended stay at the hospital. She had another breakdown after seeing photos Sophie sent from the cruise, specifically the ones of you and Nikki at dinner. I don't think Sophie meant any damage, but it was too much for Linda." I sat back, stunned. "What happened?" George's voice dropped, almost to a whisper. "Rhonda and I found her in the bathroom. She'd cut her wrists." "Oh my God," I said, absorbing the shock of it. Part of me felt sympathy, but another part felt a strange sense of closure. She was beginning to understand the pain she'd caused, though at a high cost. "She'll be there for a while, right?" I asked. "Doctors think it could be years, maybe longer," George admitted. "Given her history, they believe she needs 24-hour care. Rhonda and I just aren't able to provide that, so the doctors recommended long-term treatment." "I'm truly sorry, George," I said. "If there's anything I can do, please let me know." "Thank you, son," he said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "I just thought you should know." After George left, I spent the rest of the evening deep in thought. Although I felt sadness for what Linda had become, I couldn't ignore the relief that I felt. As I moved forward, for the first time in years, I felt peace, a chance to rebuild and find happiness with the kids. In the following weeks, Nikki and I grew closer, talking almost every day. She invited us to visit her in Canada, and I could tell the kids were excited about it. They warmed up to the idea of a trip to British Columbia and were just as curious as I was to see her home. I imagined this trip symbolizing a fresh start, a chance to experience something new, free from the weight of the past. After everything that happened, it felt surreal to have reached this moment of quiet reflection. I realized that sometimes life's harshest betrayals push us toward the people and places we truly belong. The ache of loss had dulled over time, leaving behind resilience, even gratitude for lessons I hadn't sought but desperately needed. My journey wasn't over, and neither was my family's, but the path was now clear. As we looked ahead, to Nikki, to new beginnings, to peace, I felt a sense of purpose. Perhaps, in the end, I'd found more than I'd ever lost. In the end, I realized that healing isn't about forgetting the pain, but learning to live with it, allowing it to shape a stronger, wiser version of myself. Linda's betrayal shattered the foundation I'd built, yet the pieces I picked up formed something far more resilient. With each passing day, I saw the lives I still held close. My children's laughter, their resilience, and my newfound companionship with Nikki transformed the emptiness into purpose. Moving forward didn't mean leaving it all behind. It meant carrying the lessons with me, knowing that sometimes peace emerges only after the hardest battles.